Australia has the highest rate of skin cancer in the world.
Tanning is skin cells in trauma.
For decades, sunscreen has been a critical line of defense.
Slip, slop, slap, slip.
40 years of concerted public health messaging has been effective, I think, in educating Australians to the risks of sun exposure.
But earlier this year, testing by consumer group Choice found 16 out of 20 popular sunscreens sold in Australia failed to meet the sun protection claim, or SPF, on their labels. One SPF 50+ product was found to have an SPF of just 4 and has since been recalled.
I think these results do have the potential to undermine all that we've achieved over the last 40 years.
At least half of the failed products use the same overseas lab to certify their SPF claims. Princeton Consumer Research, or PCR, which has laboratories in the US and UK.
If you see data that's too good to be true, and you see it dozens of times, it's probably too good to be true.
At least 15 sunscreens sold in Australia have used PCR to test their SPF. Now, a former employee is speaking out about the lab's practices and the potential consequences.
You're putting consumers at risk, and you're also flat out just not doing what's regulatory required.
Before sunscreen hits the market, it must be tested on people to determine its SPF. Dr. Michael Trout is a sunscreen expert who heads up SPF testing at this US lab.
An SPF 30 means that you could spend 30 times longer in the sun than in unprotected skin and not get a burn.
There are only a handful of labs that do this kind of testing.
It's a very specialized area that requires very specialized skills, very specialized equipment. It's difficult to do.
PCR is a popular choice for Australian sunscreen makers. We have obtained 6 test reports of Australian sunscreens conducted at PCR's UK facilities between 2020 and 2025. 730 has shown these reports to a number of industry experts, including Dr. Michael Trout.
I cannot explain how those results are possible. There is nothing about those results that are typical.
A major problem, according to Dr. Trout and 5 other experts who examined these reports, is that when the same product was tested on 10 different people's skin, it performed almost identically.
So the odds of having that many people on a panel repeating with the same number are extremely low. I would say it's highly unlikely. There's a laboratory that somehow cracked the code for how to get a level of consistent results.
These results were used to validate sunscreens for sale in Australia.
Do you have enough questions on that data to say that you can't trust it?
The man who signed off testing on at least 6 Australian sunscreens is PCR's technical director, Barry Jewett.
So, first of all, we would not have buffets.
No, I don't do buffets.
That wouldn't work for him.
Fans of reality TV show Below Deck might recognize Barry Jewett, as well as his former husband, Tony Barlow, the man who founded PCR.
What time do you want dinner?
7.
7 is
Would that
perfect.
work? Perfect.
Of course it would work.
Appreciate
Okay,
that.
bye-bye.
Thank you.
Wow.
The boat's starting to rock a little bit.
Barry and Tony, to my knowledge, were the executive leaders, and realistically, they were the sort of monetary deciding factors. They were the lead decision makers.
Brian Echofield was hired as PCR's business development manager in 2017, after more than a decade working in sales for cosmetic testing.
I would say that relatively quickly after I started working at Princeton Consumer Research, I started to see some things which I questioned.
Brian said the lab had been incorrectly incorporating the European protocol to test American products.
It's not okay to take the European standards and expect that they're going to be the same in Australia or the US.
Each method for its own jurisdiction has to be followed to the letter. You cannot hybridize two methods. The data's worthless.
Thank you.
730 has obtained emails that show Brian alerted Barry Jewett and Tony Barlow to the issue.
So there's an email here being written to Barry Jewett, and it states, long story short, the way this is written is incorrect. And there's a response from Barry Jewett which says, I have no idea about SPF. Tony, can you interject?
Brian says he found Barry's admission extraordinary.
The principal investigator has to have a superior knowledge and an understanding. So the fact that the principal investigator would question something relatively basic is extremely alarming.
CEO Tony Barlow told staff to stop using the hybrid method.
There's an email which states, team, until we have this resolved, we need to withdraw offering this specific study type to clients.
An email from a PCR manager revealed he believed the wrong method had also been used for other products in the past.
There could be numerous problems, including major issues for consumers where products have higher SPF label claims than the products may actually provide.
If a regulator discovers this, it would probably involve some sort of a recall.
Brian's confidence in the lab reached a low point when a client questioned some test results in 2018. One of his SPF 30 sunscreen came back with a water-resistant value of 41.2, despite not being a water-resistant product.
It's extremely unlikely that a brand would create a water-resistant sunscreen somehow without knowing about it.
If it wasn't formulated to be water-resistant, after immersion in water, that SPF should fall off a cliff.
Internal emails seen by 730 show PCR staff questioned the incident.
I am becoming more and more concerned with the state of these SPF studies.
So the client was shocked, and I'm not quite sure they knew what to do with the results.
Brian doesn't know what went wrong with the study, but says when he raised concerns with his bosses, they were dismissed.
Brian, leave the studies to the scientists who run them. These people have many years of experience. Signed from Tony Barlow, founder and CEO of Princeton Consumer Research.
It's really going to come down to sample size.
Brian Echofield says he was so disillusioned, he decided to leave PCR. He then set up his own cosmetic testing company. Barry Jewett declined an interview. A PCR spokesperson said he categorically denies any allegation of unethical practice or breach of protocol. They also said Brian Echofield is in direct competition with PCR, and we do not regard him as a reliable commentator on laboratory integrity or PCR's practices. The Therapeutic Goods Administration, or TGA, regulates sunscreens. It requires sunscreen makers to hire a testing lab, like PCR, to certify their SPF, but it does not regulate these labs. And it doesn't have to check the SPF report before the products are available for sale.
Some of the laboratories that test for SPF are not as reliable as they perhaps should be.
The TGA is looking into sunscreen testing and investigating PCR.
PCR is one of the laboratories that we have been working to understand the data. Once we've finished those investigations, we'll be letting Australians know very clearly what our regulatory actions will be.
Has the TGA dropped the ball on this?
The TGA, as I've said, is being very careful with all of the data that we are collecting. Where we identify a safety issue, those products will be recalled from the market.
In August, Ultraviolet was the first brand to cease using PCR. Many others have since done the same. Now, 730 can reveal one of the industry's major manufacturers, Baxter Laboratories, has also walked away from PCR. Baxter makes sunscreens for household names like Cancer Council, Woolworths, Coles, Sunbalm, and Bondi Sands. In a statement, Baxter's CEO said, "We take confidence in SPF testing very seriously." He said Baxter's is retesting products with a number of other labs to give consumers confidence that products provide a high level of protection. The TGA is providing guidance to sunscreen makers on how to pick a reliable SPF testing lab.
You recently had a study published where 80% of the sunscreens did not achieve their SPF. I think it's perfectly reasonable to be concerned.
Obviously, we're looking to the TGA to tighten up the compliance and make sure that these products do actually meet the standards that they claim.
Despite the uncertainty, Dr. Reid maintains there are still many viable sunscreens on the market.
People should still have confidence in the vast majority of sunscreen products and they should still provide adequate protection from the sun, especially if used frequently.
Dr. Trowell says the industry has a lot to do to restore trust.
Things have to be done to right the ship, because if you're not getting the protection, you're going to get a burn when you shouldn't have. Those burns over time are known. The studies are there, lead to skin cancer. So it's not a mystery what happens when these products aren't performing.